Hey, somebody needs to take a hike. You have? Excellent. Good morning, afternoon, or evening. You are listening to The Professional Noticer. Hello, everyone. I'm Andy Andrews. Hey, thank you for making me a part of your week. My purpose here today, and with every show we do, is to play the part of a best friend or coach. I want to help you live the life of your wildest dreams by giving you access to the greatest mentors the world has to offer today. This week, The Professional Noticer is sponsored by Books for Veterans. The Veterans Administration in Washington, D.C. has asked for 10,000 Andy Andrews books, and I'm personally donating as many as I can, but to reach 10,000, I need your help. What we're able to do to make that easier for you is for every $10 donation you make, a hardback book will be sent to the Veterans Administration for the veterans, their families, and for the employees of the VA. That $10 will cover the cost of a hardback book, the shipping, the handling, everything. So whether you can make this a personal gift or a corporate donation, just go to andyandrews.com/veterans. This can be added to a website purchase or done as an individual entry. And thank you. Thank you so much for your support. Observations and answers, that's what we do here on The Professional Noticer. And as you know, we love it when somebody comes to the table with both. And our guest today, he's not just one of my favorite entertainers of all time. He's not just one of my favorite authors of all time. He is one of my favorite people of all time. I know a few people who are in a Hall of Fame, but Don is the only one I know that's in two. He is in the Country Music Hall of Fame and the Gospel Music Hall of Fame. He has so many songwriting awards, you can't count them. And I can't believe now Don is the former lead singer of the Statler Brothers. He has a voice that you will recognize when he sings, when he talks, he has this classic voice. But I cannot believe that he has written 11 books since he retired. That's not retirement to me. But please welcome my friend, the author of the new book, Piano Days, Don Reid. Hey, buddy.
Thank you, Andy, my friend. I appreciate that wonderful introduction. And you're right. I thought I was retiring 20 years ago, and then I started writing, and something else new happened. And I appreciate that you've been a part of it so often when I have new books come out.
Well, you are, like I said, you're not just one of my favorite authors, favorite entertainers. You're one of my favorite people. We've known each other for a long time.
I'll return that right to you, too, because I enjoy talking to you. I enjoyed seeing you a couple of months ago. We were in Nashville. And
yeah, because you were hosting the Brothers of the Heart, their new album.
Their new album, and did the interview with them. And that's coming out, I think, in January. Yeah.
I was going to ask, because that is going to be an amazing project. You know, their first album that they did just kind of off the cuff and sold several 100,000. And I was blown away by it. And so when they were going to do another live album, I showed up, and lo and behold, you were there hosting.
You know, it was probably the most scope I've ever seen on one album for the kind of music, from gospel to country to early rock to Beatles to everything. You know, they just included every kind of music you can think of.
It is. And we all knew Jimmy Fortune could sing, because these four guys is Jimmy Fortune, Bradley Walker, Mike Rogers, and Ben Isaacs. And so they all have their own grooves that they're in. But, Ben, we knew he could sing too, I guess. Mike Rogers was kind of new to me, but Bradley Walker blows my mind.
So he sings lead, and then he'll just switch over and sing bass for a while.
I know. The first time I heard him hit those low notes, I couldn't believe it. We were with the Gaithers, and there was some song they were doing. It was on a Gaither cruise, and there was some song that they were doing that Gene had gotten off the ship halfway through, and they didn't have a bass. And so I watched that first show. They didn't have that low, hard note. And so I watched that first show they did, and in between shows, I went to Bill and I said, Bradley can hit those notes. He said, he can? I said, I'm telling you, Bradley can hit those notes. So next show, Bradley, they rolled him to the front, and he was just unbelievable.
Oh, he never let you down.
You know,
and Jimmy, he's the best there is.
Jimmy's voice, how do you explain? I mean, he's not that old. Nobody's that old to me anymore. But
that's right.
But to have that high, pure, clear voice that's that strong at his age, is that unusual?
I was just with him a few nights ago when he was doing a concert, and he's probably singing better than he ever has. I don't see any backing off at all that he's done, and he's always been strong and crystal clear. And yeah, he just got a good voice because he's got a good heart.
Yeah, unbelievable. Oh, buddy, you knocked it out of the park with this one. Piano Days. This is a novel. It's a story of three boys growing up. Once upon a beautiful time. I love the way that's put, and you are you're the kind of writer that I like to read because you do detail well. It's almost like, remember that show, The Wonder Years?
Yeah, sure do.
I loved that show. Now that show was kind of they borrowed a lot from the movie A Christmas Story, and that was where, you know, you see the kid, you hear the kid talk, but the narrator is an adult who is able to comment on what the kid was feeling like when he said that, and the adult perspective of it. And that's what you do so well in this book to me.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's a story that's set in the late 50s, early 60s. And it's just a story of guys growing up together and experiencing some of those first things in life together, girls, and getting your driver's permit and going to the drive-in and the sock hops and all that sort of thing. And it was fun to go back and pull up that era, because I love that era of time, and to do that. Plus, there's a more adult story as it goes along, as it comes to the end. It was fun. I enjoyed every minute of writing, and I was sorry when it was over because I was enjoying those people so much.
You know, there was a comment on this somewhere that was, here it is. It says, readers will be taken back to a time in history they may never have experienced themselves, but everyone seems to think they remember. That is so true. I was struck when I read this by how you were able to take stories that seems like we experienced them. Everybody knew a kid who ate everything. You know, I mean, he was always putting stuff in his mouth, and you're like, oh, what are you doing? And whereas most people would maybe tell that story, we had a kid in our neighborhood, and he used to put pennies in his mouth, or, you know, but the way, and if I can, I would like to read just a little bit here. Because I think this is just it's so well done. I rode my bike to the side door of the concession stand, kicked the kickstand in place, got off, took the key out of my dungarees pocket, and opened the door. I had no reason to go in yet, but I liked exercising my authority in front of Billy and J.O., who liked watching me exercise it. This particular morning, they were not riding the bases or playing ball. They were looking for change in the dirt near the stand that customers may have dropped. 2 summers ago, Benny Shep accidentally found a quarter, and ever since, we looked for money like it was a promised treasure just waiting to jump in our pockets. To my knowledge, and I would have known, that quarter was the only piece of currency ever found on the grounds, but it kept us in suspense for years, just looking and anticipating the possibility. I found a cigar. What you gonna do with it, J.O.? It's half smoked. What you gonna do with the other half? Eat it? J.O. was 6 years old, and it wasn't the first cigar he had eaten. J.O. ate cigars, pennies, postage stamps, candy wrappers, and he chewed any gum he could find, stick or wad. He didn't do it for attention, 'cause he knew how sick it made us and how disgusting we thought he was for doing it. So he'd sneak off and do it, hiding under the bleachers, eating a cheroot. He wouldn't touch a cigarette, though. He said they were nasty. I just love that. I just love that.
Yeah,
so what is your favorite?
No kids like J.O., yeah.
Oh, what is your favorite part of this book?
My favorite part of the book, and we can't talk a lot about, is the last chapter, is when it all comes together.
Right.
And there's a lot of things answered and addressed. I think that it really did fulfill me in being able to do that.
I sensed you had a great time writing that. You know, it's like the planets aligning and you being able to explain it. So,
yeah. There's all kinds of, each chapter I would think, well, this would be a fun story, such as writing about the Christmas parade. Well, I can't remember what chapter that might have been, but you write about the Christmas parade, and you write about going to visit the fortune teller, all these kind of things that kids like to get into that they probably shouldn't, but or the prom, going to the prom dance and all that. So it's stuff that most everybody they've done, but that's just a little bit of different twist on it.
Yeah, well, I think this is just a great book, and so I would, if I were you out there watching, listening, I would order 2 of these, because you're gonna want to give one away. This is just.
I want to give both of them away after you read it. I don't know.
No, yeah. you're not. I mean, you're. That's that humility coming through, because this book is just. I mean, this is kind of a. Who's that guy? This is kind of a Rick Bragg kind of. That kind of quality, to me. Have you ever
Thank you for all the kind words, Andy. That's very good.
Have you ever read All Over But the Shouting?
No, I don't think so.
That is a book you would really enjoy. That's Rick Bragg, but this book is.
I'll check that out.
Yeah, it's just right up there. It's right up there. Hey, you were part of that documentary that came out recently on Johnny Cash.
Last week it was in the theaters for 3 days for a limited run. The redemption of an American icon, Johnny Cash, and I was one of the talking heads, and the number of different people that knew John kind of told the story, and it was good to go back and kind of clear up some things about John, because people remember some of the bad stuff, but he had heart throughout his life. Even through the rough years, and we were there during those rough years, but he came out of it right.
You guys were there. I mean, he started y'all, right?
Yes. He discovered us, and we were with him for like nearly 9 years on the road and doing all of his records and television and everything. He was our beginning and our education. We learned what to do and what not to do from John, and he was very honest and open with all of that.
Did you, on the documentary, I have not seen that yet, but I heard about it. But on there, did you say that he took Daddy Sang Bass right out from under you?
Well, Andy, that story didn't come up. But thank you for bringing that up. Yeah.
Tell that story. I think that's hilarious. I can just see you 4 guys going, yeah, okay.
We were in Johnny Cash's employ at the time. And we were all traveling together, John and June and Carl Perkins and the Statlers. So Carl writes this song called Daddy Sang Bass in the dressing room one day. And we're all in there. And we started doing it with him. And we said, man, we're going to cut that song. That is great. That is great. He said, okay, all right. So the tour ends. We all go home for a few days. In about 2 or 3 days, we get a phone call from John. Said, be in Nashville tomorrow. Well, we're going to cut a song. Okay, so we live in Virginia, so it wasn't any small effort for it. Okay, we'll be there. We got there, and the song was Daddy Sang Bass. Carl had sung it to him, too. So we wound up on his record of Daddy Sang Bass instead of ours.
Did you guys, I mean, and obviously there's no way you said anything.
Oh, well, you can't say a lot. And there was really no hard feelings with him or with Carl, because later we recorded it and put it on one of our albums also. But as many other people did. But it was... we thought it was ours for a while. Anyhow, it was a great record for John.
Hey, what's the coolest thing that you learned from Johnny Cash that, or something that you know about him that we wouldn't know? I knew him, but not well, and so what? But
I'll tell you, this is cool. What I think most people don't know. When he and June built their house out on Old Hickory Lake, he had no furniture. They just getting ready to move in, no furniture. The lights weren't even turned on yet. And he called us. We were in Nashville, and he said, come over this evening and bring your guitar. Go over to the house, to the new place I just built. So we rode over. Nobody was there but he and June. And we went in. It was about dusk, just where we were starting to see shadows. And he said, come on in. I want you to stand here in the living room, and I want you to christen my house. I want the first song ever sung in my new house to be How Great Thou Art, and I want the Statler Brothers to sing it. So we stood there in the near darkness, just the six of us, and we sang How Great Thou Art. And that meant something to him, that he wanted that done for his home, and we were touched.
Wow. Man, what an honor.
It was nice. We were there many times thereafter, but that was the most memorable visit ever that we were.
It also says a lot about him.
Yes, it does. It tells about his faith and where his heart and head was.
What is something that you look back and that you might do, or that you guys incorporated into your career, and when you would do that, or you had experienced that, you'd kind of maybe look at each other and go, we got that from John.
Exactly. He used to always tell us this. He would say, when you put your organization together, because all that came then after we left him, we formed it. He said, always surround yourself with good people. And we remembered that and did that but sometimes it wasn't the most talented person you wanted to make sure they were the right kind of people. You wanted to make sure what they felt and what they believed and who they were and their morals, sometimes more than their talent. And that is what we did. We learned that from him, and we surrounded ourselves with good, and we had some wonderful people around us.
You know what I learned from you guys?
I would like to know that. Yeah.
One of the greatest lessons I learned from you guys was how to treat people who are trying hard, but maybe, are not there yet. And because you guys, when I think back about it, every time I think about you guys, I always think about how well you treated me. I was just starting out, as baby entertainer, baby comedian, and you guys treated me like I belonged. And I mean, like I was part of the thing. I don't know how many times we worked together. It was a bunch, but
it was. Guys, and you have no reason to treat people any different. And people who do that need to stop and look at themselves and think, why do I have a right to treat anybody any different? We've all been there. We were all in the same shoes that you were then. It's just different times in your life, different times in time. And there's no reason not to treat everybody well.
Well, there's no reason to, but people do. I mean, because, part of the reason I have probably such incredible memories of you guys is because I had a contrast. You know,
Wow.
there were some
Well,
other
that's nice.
people that,
Yeah.
and you know, today I look and I think sometimes I think, man, were you never an opening act? Did you just like get into the business and just
Exactly.
headline right off the bat? I mean, where are you coming from that you can
A lot
treat
of
people?
people have short memories and they don't remember when they were there doing that. And
Right.
that's bad.
You
Plus, we
know,
liked you from the beginning.
well,
You just were the right kind of people. We knew that, and we liked you. We liked being around you.
you're kind. Joan Rivers. I toured with Joan for 2 years, and Joan didn't have a bus. She would fly commercial, and there were 7 of us that would travel. And because I bought my own plane ticket, I was the only one who flew coach. And so but this was back when they were boarding celebrities early,
Oh yeah.
and so they would take Miss Rivers and her entourage on, and she would always say, "Come on, come on, come on," and she would board me with them, and more than a couple of times she told me, she said, "You enjoy yourself back there and coach, and when you're back there, you you make sure you notice how close your knees are to that seat and how tired your back gets, because you're not always going to be flying coach in your life, and when you are not, you need to remember what it's like."
Boy, remember what it's like.
She was something else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good words.
You know, what is your favorite thing to do? You're one of these guys, I mean, 2 different Hall of Fames, and you have so many songwriter awards that they're just like uncountable. And so singing, entertaining, writing songs, writing books. I mean, there's no more, hey, the singer has written a book. You have 11. You're an author. And
Thank
so
you.
what's your favorite thing to do?
To do, you mean outside of work? Just
Yeah.
because I still
Yeah.
enjoy doing that. You know, my favorite is my family. I have been very blessed. We got 2 sons, we got 4 grandkids, and they all live within a rock's throwing distance. We kind of have a compound here, and I just love getting together. We get together in the summer by the pool. We get together in the wintertime around the table, and we just, whenever we can do it, we just get together and eat till we can't stand up and enjoy one another. I look forward from one visit to the next.
Well, I know both your boys sing. And so at some point, you 3 have to do something. I mean, you just
Well,
have to.
of course, Langdon sings with Will, who was his cousin. You know, that's Wilson Fairchild, and they're doing wonderful things. And my other son D, he plays guitar. He doesn't sing, but yeah, we used to get together and do music. But sometimes we eat lunch together. My sons and I once every week for sure. Every Wednesday we go to lunch to make sure, and we just stay and talk about everything imaginable. No music involved, but we talk about the business or what's going on in the world or what's going on in our lives. And those are just peaceful moments for me.
I envy you with both your boys living that close, because one of mine has already moved out, and it moved away. And so
Yeah,
I
that's
envy.
rough,
I,
isn't
I
it? It
I
is.
had a guy tell me on an airplane one time. He said, "Don't ever let your kids go out of state to college." I was like, "Why is that?" He said, "'Cause you live in Alabama, and your kid will want to go to Texas, and you'll think, well, Texas isn't that far. But then some dad in California's daughter, she'll want to go to Texas, and he'll think, well, Texas isn't that far. And then they'll meet, and they'll move to California, and you're out of luck."
Oh, yeah, yeah. I know what he's saying. Hey, my oldest granddaughter is a freshman at Clemson this
Really?
year. So she's already moved out of state. So I thought about those kind of things.
Yeah.
Where's that going to lead to in time? He's exactly right.
So what? So when it comes to writing books or writing songs, what what do you like better?
Loved both. When I first started the books, my publisher said to me, he said, uh, take your time. Give me, he said, what you used to write for 3 minutes and make it rhyme. Now you got 300 pages to tell your story. That was a revelation to me. All right, I don't have to worry about compact sentences. I don't have to worry about putting it all in so it'll get played on the air in 3 minutes. So it was a luxury to be able to expand. But at the same time, I love that learning that art of songwriting to where you could pack a story in there real quick and try to give yourself fresh rhymes. And so all of it I found challenging and fun. I don't write a lot of songs anymore just because I've done that, but I still enjoy the writing process.
Yeah, I've written a few now with Jimmy Yeary, and going from writing songs to writing books, that would be more relaxing. But when you're used to having 60,000 words to tell a story, and now you got to do it in 3 minutes, that's rough. That took some work.
Yeah. On the radio, just 2 days ago, I'm hearing Gene Pitney sing The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance. You remember the old movie, John Wayne, Lee Marvin, Jimmy Stewart, which I love that Western, probably one of my favorite Westerns. And I'm listening to it, and Pitney had written, kind of condensed that movie into the song. Listen to it sometime, check it out. And it was really, so it's hard to come down that way. You're right, from a movie down to a song. But
wow,
that had to be a good challenge for him. I know he enjoyed doing that.
Somebody told me recently, because you're in my conversations a lot. You're one of my most admired figures, and so somebody told me this. Is it true that you were a teenager when you wrote your first song, like a young teenager?
Well, yeah, young. I was like 12 years old when I wrote my first song. And that's when I started doing it, because we started singing. I was 14 years old when I started singing with the Statlers. So we didn't get into it professionally till I was like 18, but I was pretty early on into that. So yeah, and I learned that you wouldn't want to hear that first one. It wasn't all that good, but it was a song, and it did rhyme and it had music. That's what all I can say for it.
And so you started writing songs when you were 12. Do you have any idea how many you wrote?
Had over 250 recorded, but there are some still in the notebook that weren't any good. So, I don't know how many I've written. No.
I was talking to Gloria Gaither yesterday, and Gloria sent me a song that she had written. She said, I've been holding on to this for a long time because nobody got it. And I have finally, now the vocal band just recorded it. But, I guess even people like you and Gloria Gaither have songs that you write and you don't know why somebody doesn't get it.
And sometimes after they sit there for a few years, you think, well, maybe it wasn't all that good. And then you got some thinking, boy, I wish somebody had done this, or wish we had done this. But yeah, you never know. It's got to be the right time, the right moment, the right artist. It's got to be all the solar system has to come into play, and everything has to be the right time. Yeah.
Timing's a lot of it, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I believe that.
With The Traveler's Gift, I wrote that, and then after about a year, started trying to get it published. And then 3.5 years passed. 51 publishers said no.
My golly, really?
Yeah, 51 publishers over 3.5 years said what I had written was not worth putting on paper. And so that's 4.5 years. And then we finally got a contract. And so 5.5 years, the book comes out. It went in the bookstores and out of the bookstores in 5 weeks because it didn't sell. And so then there's 6.5. So then about another year, because I started giving them away because I thought, I still think, God didn't teach me how to swim just to let me drown. There's got to be a reason for this.
Yeah.
And so I started giving them away. I had when they didn't sell, I had a one book deal, and I asked the publisher. I said, "So what do y'all do with them?" And they said, "Well, they'll go into remainder stores and then eventually be destroyed." And I said, "Well, can I have them?" And they said, "Well, you can buy them." And I'm like, "Thanks. You destroy them, or I can buy them."
I am, yeah.
Thank you. But I did. I started buying them, and I would give them away on airplanes. I would say, "Hey, maybe you'll like this. My wife loves this author." That's what I'd say.
There you go.
And
Good line.
somebody gave it to somebody, gave it to somebody, gave it to somebody, gave it to Robin Roberts, and then the book hit because the Good Morning America made it their book of the month. But I never will forget sitting in front of the TV watching Charlie Gibson, Diane Sawyer, and Robin talking about that book. And Diane Sawyer held it to the camera and she said, "This is a book America needs at this time." And I thought, at this time.
Yeah.
Because America had not gone through 9/11. There's a lot of things that had not happened when I wrote it. And so, Don, that's always been my big problem with God, is he never seems to be under any obligation to tell me what he's doing.
It's true. He doesn't. And he doesn't care what time it is. He's in his own time.
Oh, my
God.
gosh.
Andy, what the story you just told, that's a great story for young authors to listen to, because it takes more than talent to write a book. The perseverance and the patience that you showed to do that, 51 publishers in the years that went on to turning you down. That takes a lot, and you got to have a lot of stamina to do what you did with that book, and it paid off big for you.
I fear that the best song and the best book ever written are going to end up in somebody's drawer because somebody will do it, and then somebody will tell them, "Yeah, that's not that good," and they'll just.
It already has ended up somebody's drawer already.
Yeah.
It's sad to think that, but it's possible.
So what have you not done that you still want to do?
Oh, gee. I've done more than I ever thought I could. I've done more than I ever dreamed of. So thank God. God's blessings have surpassed my dreams. And I am so thankful for that. And I'm just enjoying my life, enjoying my family. There's nothing more that I have a burning desire to do. And it's kind of a nice, peaceful feeling. I think that's the peace that I've been rewarded with at this particular age in my life.
Is there anybody that you would like to have a conversation with, just where nobody was knowing you were having a conversation? No cameras, no audio equipment, but if you could just kind of sit down and say, "Hey, come here, let's," and who would that be?
A dead or alive, or you mean in actual reality, somebody today?
Yeah, somebody in actual reality. But then I want you to answer that as if you had all of history to choose, and you can't say Jesus because everybody would say Jesus. So
somebody in all history. Oh, let me go by. We're talking writers now. You've got my mind there. Let me go back to my favorite author when I discovered him when I was a teenager, John O'Hara. I don't know if you're familiar with that name.
No, I'm not.
John O'Hara. He wrote novels of the early first half of the 20th century. And I would say I would like to talk to him. I enjoyed his way of thinking. I like the way he wrote. And I think that would have been certainly a fun conversation for me.
What would you ask? I'm curious what you would ask another writer.
How did you decide what you thought was important to record? What did you want to say? How did you decide? It's kind of like what I did with Piano Days and why I decided to do that. Sometimes it's hard to answer. It's hard to answer. I had a great experience to talk about that. When I met Frank Sinatra, we were doing a show and we had a few moments to talk. And I said to him, you meet Sinatra and you think, well, I want to say something. I don't want to sound corny. But I knew that he knew O'Hara, John O'Hara. They were friends. Pal Joey, he'd done the movie O'Hara. So I asked him, I said, I'm a big admirer of John O'Hara. And he was dead by then. I said, tell me a John O'Hara story. Just give me a story. He said, oh, my golly. He liked that. He said, let me think. He said, you know what I remember O'Hara? He was always quitting something. Every time I'd run into him, he was quitting smoking, he was quitting drinking, he was quitting eating, going on a diet. He said, that's what I always remember about him. He was never satisfied with what. And I found that story really amusing. And so it was, maybe that's something that I would, that you'd like to find out about people.
That is awesome.
It's a real human kind of story.
I got to say, you're like the first person I've ever talked to who said, when I was talking to Frank Sinatra, I mean, holy cow, your life has spanned, you took in both sides of a huge gap of entertainment, those older guys like Sinatra, and then, I've seen you guys at award shows, winning the Entertainer of the Year, and all the young country music singers just loved y'all. And I mean, you've known a lot of people.
We were so blessed to do that and to meet all those folks from other fields even, and that we admired. I said one time I met all my heroes, and I did. And it was such a blessing, and that not many people get to meet all their heroes, but I did. And I'm so thankful for that. And we blessed, like my blessings beyond dreams.
Let me ask you one last question, Don, and that would be a new writer, a young person that wants to write. They want to write songs, or they want to write books. They have that itch to write, but they don't really know how to get going. What do you tell them?
What's the most important thing to you? What do you want to get out there and say? If you had 30 seconds, what do you want to say? And I'd have them tell me, and then I would say, then write it, and write it from your heart. Don't try to please any particular crowd, any particular genre of readers and that sort of thing. Just write it from your heart. And if you write from your heart, the story itself will have heart. And that's what's important. So write what's on your mind, write what's on your heart that you know best. I had a writing teacher years ago in school who said, write what you know. And that's always thought that was the simplest and best writing advice. Johnny Cash told me one time about writing something. He said, the best way to say it is to just say it. And don't belabor how or what, just get it out there. And I think that's what it is. Just get rid of the filters and put it on paper.
Man, somebody back there write that down. If you write from the heart, what you write will have heart. That should be in some kind of quote book or something.
I never heard that before until you just now said it, but.
Well, that's a great one. Don, thank you. Thank you so much for being with us. I just appreciate it. I know that you're busy with your family, and so to take the time to do this, I appreciate it.
I've enjoyed every second of this. You know what I really hate? I hate that we're so far apart. That you're in Alabama and I'm in Virginia, and I just wish we were closer where we could have lunch often.
I know, man. I'm gonna butt in on one of y'all's lunches one day.
I wish you would. We'd love to have you anytime. It's such a pleasure to talk to you and to revisit with an old friend. Love you dearly, and I appreciate it.
Thank you. Piano Days, Don Reid. Get the book.
Thank you, bud.
Bye-bye. I'm Andy Andrews, the professional noticer, harnessing common sense and wisdom to plow through challenges all the way to an answer for you. And I think that'll do it for this week. Get us out of here, Matthew. So, ladies and gentlemen, and to the boys and girls who aspire to become ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the end of another episode of The Professional Noticer. In a world where common sense has become a superpower, I'm harnessing that tiny bit of mental energy I have for you, seeking wisdom, making observations, and endeavoring to answer tough questions in a way that will empower your family and your business. I'm Andy Andrews. Until next week, goodbye. This episode of The Professional Noticer was produced by Matt Limpert. The Noticer theme written and performed by Sugarcane Jane. Oysters Rockefeller for the cast and crew provided by Twinkle and Smoke of Beverly Hills. Additional funding provided by casualstats.com. Are you the kind of person who wants to be specific because you desire credibility, but you're just too darn lazy to research the facts? Well, in today's world, there's nothing more specific than a statistic. 71.8% of people can do this or that, and 64.3% of candy canes are striped clockwise or counterclockwise. You get the idea. Statistics make you look smart because the percentage is narrowed to an absolute point, and everyone just naturally believes any point made with statistics. So if you desire credibility, but there's just not enough time in the day to find proof about what you want someone else to believe, let the good people at casualstat.com teach you how to present convincing evidence and win every argument. For example, never use descriptors like a lot or most. Even the words more than half are ambiguous. Be exact. Tell them it was 58.1%. And for the cherry on top, state for the record that you arrived at that precise number by a poll or survey. What poll or survey, you ask? Well, if you subscribe to casualstat.com within the next 3 hours, you'll be given a free membership to casualsource.com, and you'll never be doubted again. Just pick a topic, choose a percentage from Casual Stat, move over to Casual Source, select a highly reputable organization, and throw it out there. After all, it's a fact. At least according to an official written survey conducted by CBS News only 3 months ago, fully 99.7% of American citizens never question information presented with a statistic. And that's good for you, right? Because you know a secret that 88.4% of college graduates will never realize. And that secret is that 98.7% of all statistics are made up on the spot. We are casualstat.com, and you can count on us 100% of the time.